On this episode, we learn about the Human-Powered Transportation Committee of the American Society of Civil Engineers. Then we look at the Oakland Pedestrian Safety Project. We talk with a community organizer about the problems facing a low-income inner-city neighborhood. Then we examine the problems facing pedestrians in the suburbs. And finally, we meet the president of an advocacy group in Atlanta. Stay tuned. We're in Southern California talking with Mac Elliott. Recently, the American Society of Civil Engineers gave you an award. What award did you get?
The award is the James Lowry Prize. That was named after the first president of the American Society of Civil Engineers. It's been given since 1912. It's given to an engineer for contributing to the advancement of transportation engineering, or given to for an advancement of transportation engineering. Now, the particular advancement that we would have been given that award for is our work in human-powered transportation. Our committee is the American Society of Civil Engineers Human-Powered Transportation Committee. We work to make sure that engineers are able to and do include provisions for bicycles and provisions for pedestrians in their engineering design of facilities and in their construction of these facilities.
How long has your committee been around?
We've been around since 1990. Since that time, we've grown. Since that time, we've surveyed the colleges to see what sort of education they are giving, so people don't get out of the colleges without considering the potential for bicycles and the potential for walking. We've worked with the transportation engineering manuals and standards to make sure that they include provisions for bicycles and provisions and instructions and criteria for bicycles and for walking.
Now, when you surveyed the colleges and universities, what did you find?
We found that there was almost nothing there in the way of education for engineers. Engineers were being turned out of those universities with a sort of a negative attitude, particularly towards bicycles. The attitude was that bicycles were going to be an impediment to the free and clear movement of cars, and had better be kept in garages and on sidewalks. This is not the case in actual practice, because bicycles have potential to be a very substantial part of the transportation scene. Bikes can carry people for 5 miles in 30 minutes very easily. Over 50% of the trips in the United States last year were 5 miles or less. Over 30% were 2 miles or less. There's an enormous potential for bicycle transportation in those shorter distances. To build streets and a system that will not accommodate that sort of thing and will have to rely on cars, which are ultimately a non-sustainable transportation device, didn't seem to make sense to us. We felt it needed more emphasis, and we got in there, and that's the emphasis that we gave it.
What changes would you like to see in the curricula?
We would like to see, for instance, at least a small amount in the undergraduate level, enough information there so that the engineer knows the potential for the bicycle, so the engineer there knows where to go to get the information to design a facility for the bicycle. Basically, we want him to be, or her, to be aware that the bicycle is a legitimate part of the transportation package, and we feel it would not take too much in the undergraduate level to give an engineer that awareness. Now, on a graduate level, we could go to the full package of a course on how to design and how to plan and how to build bicycle facilities. These courses we've encouraged to have presented around the country as a continuing education package. They are, because right now there's a lot of engineers out there that are past college, obviously the college level. They need these classes, and they are taking them. And we've seen a considerable change in the level of knowledge and in the attitude towards bicycles and walking since we've become a committee. We've been part of that whole action, as it were. And I think making engineers aware that the bike has a potential, making engineers aware of where they can go to get the information to design properly for them, has been the chief focus of our efforts in these last several years. Now, we also have to be a part of issues, various bicycle issues that come out. And for instance, one of the latest ones is installing shoulder rumble strips. That is, a rumble strip, a groove on the side of a shoulder that will rumble if a car drives over, to let the car know that the car is leaving the roadway. Now, shoulders are where bicycles ride if you're in the rural areas, by and large. And so we have to make sure that those rumble strips aren't designed and built to preclude any bicycle from using that shoulder. And for a while, that's the way they were being put in. We feel now that the direction is shifting somewhat to where the rumble strips that will be put in will be something that will also accommodate a bicycle on that shoulder.
We're in Oakland, California, talking with Fran Gage, who's director of the Oakland Pedestrian Safety Project. What is the Oakland Pedestrian Safety Project?
Well, quite simply, we are a coalition of many, many different entities, and our goal is very simple: to make Oakland streets safer for all of our citizens, but specifically we're concentrating right now on children and seniors.
How did the project get started?
We have been in existence since 1995, and Councilmember Nate Miley, who is still on the Oakland City Council, there was unfortunately a series of tragic accidents in his district, and he said, I don't understand this problem fully, so I really need to bring a lot of people to the table and talk about what was happening in the city of Oakland, why all these people were getting injured, and sometimes fatally. So he brought a huge group of different entities together, including the hospitals, for-profit agencies such as AAA, the emergency services sectors, the county violence prevention task force, and many, many different neighborhood groups in the city of Oakland who were interested in the project. And for the first year, they studied data for Oakland. And they decided that we had a serious problem in Oakland and that it needed to be addressed. And we applied for a grant to the state, to the Department of Public Health, and we received a Safe Communities grant. And we are our second year of funding for that grant, so we're very pleased to have that grant. And I actually, starting this month, am the official director of the Oakland Pedestrian Safety Project. I've been in the group since its inception, but now we actually have enough money for staffing.
What are some of the projects you're working on now?
Immediately this fall, we have a very exciting project. We are having a Walk Your Child to School Week. We were going to try to coordinate it with National Walk Your Child to School Week, but we didn't have the funding, and we didn't have enough time to do that. So better late than never. We're having it in November 16th through November 20th. The mayor's declared that Walk Your Child to School Week. Councilmember Miley is leading this effort through the Oakland Pedestrian Safety Project. We have invited all the Oakland Public Schools, elementary schools, to participate, and there are 54 elementary schools encompassing over 30,000 children. And on top of that, there's about 20 private elementary schools, which we're also contacting, Catholic schools and other Christian schools and Muslim schools, etc. So we're going to be trying to invite all of them to participate and hold events each day of the week. But then on Friday is a big culmination of the week's events. We're going to be asking every guardian, faculty, staff, in fact, city employees are going to be asked to work. We're going to try to get the city manager to allow those city staff, if they would like to take off during those hours, to volunteer at the schools and to help educate the community, pass out material, talk to parents, collect the walkability checklists, which we'll be using. And so, yeah, it's going to be a really big day. So we're really looking forward to it.
Okay. And then once that's finished, what's coming up next?
We're a very ambitious group. We have many things planned. Our anchor event, obviously, in the fall is Walk Your Child to School Day. Then in the springtime, we're going to have Oakland's second annual Pedestrian Safety Week. We held one last year that was a very successful event. The main purpose of that event is to raise public awareness. We had a lot of media coverage, and I knew I was doing my job well when the person in front of me at the grocery store was actually talking about Oakland's fatalities in the Bay Area and how unsafe it is for pedestrians. And I think that's one of our main challenges, is to raise public awareness, because a lot of people in Oakland don't understand the seriousness of the issue. In Oakland, we have a lot of problems with people's safety and drugs and guns, and the adults really focus on that. And even the children focus on that. They know that drugs and guns are bad, but it's a fact that more children in Oakland are killed by cars than they are by guns or drugs. And that's one of the statistics that really hit home for us. And we knew that we had to turn pedestrian safety not into a soft issue as it is now, but really make it ring in people's hearts and make them be advocates for our cause. So that's one of the issues. That's another big event. Throughout the rest of the year, we'll be working with neighborhood groups, working on their issues. They're starting to organize around pedestrian safety issues. We've been bringing out traffic engineers to their monthly meetings, and we're going to be holding community hearings in those groups, so we can invite everyone in that community to have input on how and what changes should be made in their neighborhoods. We've also been just recently asked to lead the charge to create the pedestrian plan for the city of Oakland, which will be adopted into the general plan. That's probably a 4-year effort, a lot of community meetings, a lot of community input, but the city has committed to it, and we're very excited about that as well.
What does a pedestrian plan consist of? What would go into that?
Oh boy. Well, every plan is different for every city. We've looked at a few plans, such as the recent one that Portland just put out. Their plan is very encompassing. It has how wide the sidewalk should be, where sidewalks should be. Do you target school areas? Do you target senior centers? Do you target downtowns? It'll target all of those things, and how to address these issues of pedestrian safety, where sidewalks should be, who to educate, what the traffic engineers need to look at. It's a lot of community input. I think one of the things that Portland didn't have in their plan, which Oakland will have to incorporate into our plan, is the safety factor. I think Oakland has, or at least a perceived safety problem, where a lot of people don't want to walk in certain areas of Oakland. So we really need to address that issue as well, to what will really make our community more walkable. And I think a lot of it will also come down to enforcement and changing the perception of Oakland. And I know that's not the nuts and bolts and the details of a plan, but it's something that has to be incorporated into the plan before our community becomes truly walkable. So it's going to have a lot of traffic engineering, let's say, wish lists, you might say, bulb outs, as well as the sidewalks, as well as where you put traffic lights, as well as you put speed humps. It's going to be a very detailed plan, but at the same time look at the generals of what we need to do to make Oakland more walkable.
We're in Oakland, California, talking with Lucrecia Miranda, who's manager of the Fruitvale Community Collaborative. What is the Fruitvale Community Collaborative?
Okay, the Fruitvale Community Collaborative is the organizing arm of the Spanish-speaking Unity Council. The Spanish-speaking Unity Council is a Latino development corporation, a community development corporation working with a comprehensive approach to address the physical, economic, and social decline of the Fruitvale area. The Fruitvale area is a very ethnically diverse district with mostly low-income population. So through a very comprehensive approach, we are trying to address this decline, this downward spiral altogether, addressing these economic and social and physical variables altogether. And then again, the FCC, of Fruitvale Community Collaborative, is, as I said earlier, this organizing arm, and it's a specific program working directly with the community, mobilizing the community around the issues that concern them most.
What are the issues the community is concerned about that you're looking at the moment?
Okay. As I said, if we want to do our work well, we need to work with them to identify at all times what those issues are. So right now, and we probably share these issues with most of inner city areas, the issues are public safety, pedestrian safety, and garbage-related issues. And you were walking the streets of the Fruitvale before you came here to interview me, and so as you see, there is this the streets that are not really well taken care of. There is this perception of areas as being trashed or littered and not taken care of, as I said, and that contributes to a perception of unsafety too. People don't feel safe just because it don't look well, and this is like a back and forth thing, and one has to do with the other one, and we need to address them all at once. Crime is definitely a big issue, and we are organizing neighbors in neighborhood organizations, forming neighborhood crime prevention councils, for instance, working directly with public officials and bridging these public agencies with the residents, organizing focus groups and on different issues. And pedestrian safety is the other one. So it's public safety, pedestrian safety, and garbage-related issues. We have a specific program called We Are Fruitvale. We Are Fruitvale, the R word reading with 3 R's, and these 3 R's standing for reduce, reuse, and recycle. It's an educational campaign.
We're talking with Simmons Bunton, who's on the Planning Commission for the City of Westminster, is it?
Yes, sir.
You've looked at problems pedestrians face in a suburban environment versus in an urban environment like we are here in Denver, and that's rather delightful pedestrian mall. What are the problems pedestrians have in the suburbs?
Well, the problems are primarily induced by auto dependency and the limited access for pedestrians as opposed to automobiles, and specifically the ability to move from one place to another on foot comfortably, safely, and in a timely manner. Everything in the suburbs, not all suburbs of course, but in sort of post-war suburban curvilinear street kind of suburbs, everything is either segregated because of zoning, or even if it's not, the streets generally are so wide and the intersections are so far apart that it really makes it difficult for pedestrians to easily move from one point to another. I mean, it could only be 30 feet away, but if it's almost like an interstate, or if it's a 45 mile per hour zone, you've got to walk down maybe 5 minutes to where a decent intersection is, walk across and hope that you get the little man lighting up that gives you enough time, which generally they don't, unfortunately, and then go back up. So it's the major problem is that suburban development makes access for automobiles a priority and access for pedestrians secondary, maybe even tertiary, than other transportation sources.
The U.S., we're stuck with a lot of these suburbs. If we want to go in and try to make things better, what do you do? Where do you start?
We actually start with asking the citizens what they want to do, and lots of processes start with sort of a design charrette, a visioning process where they say, okay, this is what we've got, here are some other opportunities, here are some other options that have been done in other places, and what would you like to see done to make it easier for folks to move around? And a lot of folks will say, well, you know, it's fine, I like driving in my car and whatever, but that leaves out a certain proportion of the population, the young and the elderly primarily, maybe the ill, or those who just for whatever reason don't want to drive because maybe the cost of it or the difficulties they may have driving or for whatever reason. So the research that I've done looks at evaluating the opportunities for redeveloping suburban cores primarily, and those have a number of benefits. It gives a sense of community. It makes the community more walkable. It makes it fit in more in the regional context, which is a real concern, especially in the metropolitan Denver area, where you see seemingly endless sprawl.
When you're busy being a planner, you've got another thing you've been working on, an electronic journal on the internet.
Right.
Give us a few words about that.
Okay, the electronic journal is Terrain, a journal of the built and natural environments. It's a quarterly online theme-based and submission-based journal that accepts poetry and essays and fiction and artwork, as well as technical articles and journalistic articles. We also publish what we call an unsprawl case study in each issue, and the URL for that is www.bod.net/terrain, TERRAIN. And each issue is theme-based. The first issue will be out, excuse me, in August, and August 1998, and that will be on the urban neighborhood. What is a good urban neighborhood? What makes up an urban neighborhood? Why is that important? The next theme will be patterns of mobility, and we'll look especially at old patterns of mobility and emerging patterns of mobility, and not just related to the built and urban environments, but related to maybe animals or what we find in nature, or what science has taught us or hasn't been able to teach us, that kind of thing. So it really hits on two things. It hits on the literature, the poetry, the prose, and the technical side, and then it hits on the environmental stuff, both the built environment and the natural environments.
We're in Atlanta, Georgia, talking with Sally Phlox, who's founder and president of PEDS. What does PEDS stand for?
Pedestrians Educating Drivers on Safety.
And what is PEDS?
PEDS is an advocacy group here based in Atlanta that's trying to enroll local and state governments in the efforts to make walking safe.
What are some of the problems you have?
Well, they keep building streets like automobile orientation only. This one is a great example here. 9 lanes wide, no medians, left-turning drivers, double left turn lanes, while you have the walk light. There's no driver's education in this state. There's no on-street testing of license applicants, no renewal testing, no traffic enforcement, except occasional speeding in the neighborhoods. So drivers do not understand their responsibilities, and nobody is trying to teach them. What I should say that we have convinced the city of Atlanta. They are engaging or planning a major educational enforcement campaign that is in the works thanks to our efforts.
What about the rest of Georgia?
The rest of Georgia, we have gotten the Department of Transportation to create a pedestrian task force to start working on the issue of crosswalk markings. Currently they're using 2 parallel lines, and they're so faded that the only person who sees them is the pedestrian. So the DOT is getting engaged thanks to our efforts. We got that task force created also.
And this intersection behind us, is this unique?
It's typical. Typical of it's not typical of downtown or midtown, but when you get out in Buckhead, which as you can see is a highly developed area, one of the highest business concentrations in the city, the automobile rules the day, and it is definitely getting more and more typical that as it gets congested, they will put in double left turn lanes as what they call safety improvements, but they really greatly decrease the safety of pedestrians.
We're located here right between 2 busy shopping malls.
That's right.
You'd expect maybe you'd have a lot of pedestrians going from the one to the other. Is that what happens?
No, they've actually recently started a shuttle between the malls. What was happening every time is people would get in their cars, drive from one parking lot to the next. Because we are violating the Clean Air Act so badly that we can build no more roads in Atlanta, they have now put in a shuttle to discourage that cold start and take people over.
Across the street?
Across the street. And in a lot of Atlanta, I've heard senior citizens say they take a taxi to get across the street. They stay home because they can't cross the street. It's becoming a major, major problem. And as we get more and more seniors, it's going to become increasingly serious and increasingly expensive. They have they have a bus service now, especially for senior citizens, to pick them up at their homes and take them to their doctors. Extremely expensive, and if we have to do that through the whole region because everyone is car dependent, it is going to be a tremendous tax burden as the baby boomers age in the suburbs.
Visit us on the internet at www.pedestrians.org.